Welcome into another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan. Huge news coming out of Stars Land, and to join us, EP Rinkside. Great article today on the breaking news at Shap Shots. He goes into great detail. It's Sean Shapiro. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. It was I'm on a semi-vacation right now where I went off the grid from Wednesday. I checked out and then basically kind of on like the half work type schedule right now where something's got to clear the bar for me to take time to work. And today's news definitely cleared the bar to A, write about it, and B, hop on here and chat about it with you.
Yeah, you did a great job with the article. The Dallas Stars announced that they have entered into a 7-year agreement with a parent media company, Inc., APMC, to stream all regional Dallas Stars games free of charge, beginning with the 24-25 season. The games will be broadcast on the newly formed Victory Plus, which is already on Twitter, a free direct-to-consumer streaming service created by fans by APMC with the Dallas Stars. If you listen to Spits and Suds, I did a podcast over the weekend in which I kind of alluded to a streaming app and the advantages to it, but Sean's going to bring us more in depth. It seems, Sean, they've been working on this for a while.
Yeah, so I talked to Brad Alberts this morning about it, about a little bit before the news broke, and then obviously published the piece about 30 minutes after. So, yeah, this has been one of the projects the Stars business offices have been working on for about 18 months now. They kind of knew the writing was on the wall. At some point, the things were going to come to an end with Sinclair and the Diamond Sports Group, which is owned by Sinclair, and ran the Bally branded networks, Bally Sports Southwest. So they knew that the end was coming with this. Frankly, from a perspective of with the bankruptcy, as Bally is figuring all this out, they're essentially dumping properties left and right and letting some teams out. We saw the Florida Panthers do it last week. The Ducks don't have a TV deal yet for next year. Essentially, only the highest value ones are probably going to remain with Bally. So, for example, in Detroit, the Red Wings and the Tigers are owned by the same team, and that deal has been effectively negotiated as a twofer in the past. So Bally's probably going to hold on to that one tooth and nail. So the Stars, though, knew they were in a spot where something was going to open up, and they looked at a couple different options, and they are the first team, as far as we know, in the major sports to go the full streaming route. And I think it's bold because these are regional sports network TV deals typically on average brought in around $35 million per season revenue wise for teams. And so it's people in the past have been like, well, why don't they just do this? Why don't you just leave this network? Well, there's $35 million, 35 million reasons not to. And so now they have left it, and they've got to figure out, and the Stars are taking a risk here because how do you make up that revenue? And they believe through ads, through expanded viewership, through some other things they'll be able to activate through this Victory Plus platform, that they'll be able to do it. And lots of teams are paying close attention to what they're doing. A parent media company, which it sounds like it's funny and it's hilarious, Gavin. Like a parent media company just sounds like it is a generic name.
Yep. Yep.
Like it just sounds like we're just holding a placeholder for the real name of the company, but that is the name of the company. But because of the Stars, other teams have spoken with a parent media company as well to see about what they could possibly do in the future. And this is, for a Stars fan now, the simplest answer is if you are a Stars fan in DFW, or not just DFW, if you're a Stars fan in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, or Arkansas, you can now watch the Dallas Stars for free and Victory Plus. It'll be every home game that's not a national TV game will be on there. First round of the playoffs will be on there too. And it's easy. You just download the app and everything like that. And that's great. I think it's the other interesting thing, Gavin, and I want to get your thoughts on this as someone who works and understands a bit of this media industry pretty well. And obviously it's radio, not TV, but you understand how this stuff works. It is fascinating because there's no over-the-top TV element to this right now. There might be a little bit of one at some point. Brad Alberts told me they might work on a handful of games, but the Stars have left there's not going to be like, oh, hey, flip over to the Stars game on this channel.
Yeah.
there'll be no channel on regular television to flip over to. And so it's a fascinating space where we're going. And so I want to throw it back to you, Gavin, as someone who obviously studies this space, works in this space, sees the benefits of both like the podcast forum we're talking about right now, but also very much the terrestrial. Someone flips on the radio with 105.3. Like, so I'm going to throw it back to you real quick. I want to hear your thoughts on, because it's a fascinating dynamic with where this space is going.
So one of the things that I'm interested to see from a Stars perspective, and I mentioned this over the weekend, I did a solo podcast, is one thing to play the games, but you need to aggregate content. So it'll be really cool if they go all in. And by that, I mean, for instance, if they get rights, well, they can do a lot of their own stuff. But like, for instance, last week we had prospects in town. Air some of that. Podcasts, interviews with players, interviews with the GM, interview with the head coach. And the reason I say all that, Sean, is that bundles up your advertisers even more. And the more content, the more ad revenue you can do. If you just play simply the games, then I hope it works. But I think there's a broader scope here that Brad Alberts is looking at. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, deep down in the press release, and a lot of people haven't mentioned it yet, Jason Walsh is going to lead Victory Plus. Now, Jason Walsh was a former Fox Sports executive, and he was also the Dallas Stars vice president of broadcasting. So they got their guy in place that is going to be the head of content. So I'm interested to see. The timeline is fascinating because before we know it, training camp's going to begin, and that's going to be fascinating as well. So it's an interesting play. Where I think that they're really going to have to reach out, and here's why I think like a station like The Fan could help, is there's the at-home listening or watching, but there's the bars and convincing the bars to download. And you did a great job mentioning that on Chap Shots, because that was my thinking as well. So I almost feel as though the Stars have to go on a political campaign this fall as far as where they are and convincing the bars and incentivizing the bars to have the game on, because you're asking a bartender now who could just like say, all right, flip this on. You have to get to the managers, the general managers, the owners of the bar to convince them to download an app.
And there's it's the logistical challenge, and it's one of those where if I'm the Stars and I'm putting my whole full court press on this, it's the server training on this is important. So like, for example, right now there is a ESPN Plus for business, right? And I know, like, if you go online, you can look it up, you can find a place where ESPN Plus for business is. And I've done this before because I'm curious and I've tested this out, where you go and you can be like, oh, hey, I know you guys have ESPN Plus for business at your establishment. Can you put this game on? 90% of the time you ask the server, they look at you like you have three heads.
Yeah.
And so it's not just it's not just getting the bartender to know how it works. It's the server. It's having it's working with these establishments to create a spot where it's normal for people to request the Stars game and put it on. And if the better the Stars build out this channel, like if they build this channel out to a 24/7 type deal where it's got things going all the time, becomes a lot easier. Because if there's no downtime, it becomes a lot easier to get the selling point to the restaurants of, hey, this is going to be a 24/7 content channel. Right. You can leave it on full time.
Yeah.
If you can do that, it would be just like how a lot of bars have TNT on all the time, just because, it's typically a basketball or hockey game that night, and then it goes randomly to like Thor the Dark World or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you just got to keep working with, you got to keep building that up. And I think that's, the Stars are going to do more with this. The content is big. They're going to go down this. One of the other big things that people don't realize is this, when it came to rights holders, everything belonged to Bally. Anything that was, technically Sinclair, Diamond Sports, whatever, but Bally was the branded one. So the Stars couldn't show a live video of warm-ups without permission from Bally. They couldn't show a morning skate live video without permission from Bally. So the Stars now have all of their rights back. They have full control and freedom, and how they push and use it is going to be fascinating. And it could be I don't know. Like, I have a hard time believing on a pure dollars and cents sign. Gavin, I have a hard time believing they're going to make up the 30 million or whatever it is
Yeah.
based only on showing the games through this. But I think the residual impact is where they believe they can make up for it. And I
Yeah.
think that's going to be the other thing where can you get more people to watch the game? Are there going to be more people buying things? Are you like, I think that the residual impact is where you make up that money because it's going to be very hard to make up the 30 million on just even no matter how good the channel is, it's still going to be really tough. So I applaud the Stars for trying. I applaud for going bold on it. I'm a bit fascinated by the fact they went with a 7-year deal on it.
Yeah.
Which it felt very long to me. But they're trying to go on it, and other teams are interested, and just Vegas and the former Coyotes did something similar in the past last year, but they had it was a pay for platform that had some of its own problems. Like if you go and look up into Vegas Golden Knights world, the nighttime app that they had some problems, and part of the problems was it was a paid app that people struggled with. So hopefully the Stars learn from some of those mistakes, and it seems to me that they're at least taking some of the right steps right now. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
And
a lot of stick taps to them, Sean. I will say too, for those, that's a big number to make up. The question becomes, would that big number be there? So
Yeah.
let's say they get up to like 10, 15 million. Well, that might be 10, 15 million more than they'd get from a local deal as far as, once Bally's.
Yep.
So
Yep.
love the thinking by Brad Alberts. Real quick before we let you go. Did they answer the question as far as we have a lot of out-of-towners that listen to Spits and Suds, Denver, Switzerland, Italy, England. Is that still ESPN Plus?
Yes, if you live outside of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana, ESPN Plus will still be your home for Stars games. The out-of-market games if the Victory Plus will be blacked out in those during game time, but the other content will be available, but just they can't do live games because that's how rights work.
Really appreciate you jumping on the breaking news. Dallas Stars going to an app-based system, and it's really exciting, and we'll keep you up to date on Spits and Suds. Sean, you are the man. Go check out Sean Shap Shots, where he goes into detail and further breakdown, and some great quotes from Brad Alberts in there. Thanks as always, Sean.
Yep, always fun, Gavin.
And thanks for listening to Spits and Suds on 105.3 The Fan.